Absolutely. And yes, of course, the conversation around insecurity. The federal government says it has invited the Kaduna-based Islamic cleric Sheikh Ahmad Gumi over his comments on the activities of bandits in the country. In an address yesterday, the Minister of Information and Orientation, Mohammed Idris, said Gumi is not above the law, noting that government has deemed it necessary to invite him for questioning.
Recall that the cleric had earlier offered to dialogue with bandits who abducted the school children from Kuriga government secondary and LA primary schools in the Chikun local government area of the state, adding that President Tinubu must not repeat the mistake made by former President Muhammad Buhari, who refused to dialogue with bandits. To discuss this further, we're being joined by Ambassador Dr. Melvin Ejeh. He's a conflict mediator, security expert, and Executive Director, Global Peace and Life Rescue Initiatives. Good morning, and thank you very much for joining us, sir. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me in the Central. Thank you, Nigeria.
All right, I think the first question would be that in a country that is battling terrorism, battling insecurity, struggling with bandits, what is it that makes Sheikh Gumi seem so, altogether so powerful? Oh, but this is not the first time we've heard about him standing in or speaking up as a mediator or negotiator with quote-unquote bandits. What is it that makes him so seemingly powerful?
I think it's the failure of the Nigerian government over the years to have left him to be talking that trash in the country that belongs to all of us. Nigeria belongs to all of us, and I think the government need to act decisively. So let me start by commending the government of President Mohammed for taking this bold step to have invited this Islamic cleric. I think this is long overdue. It is overdue. Sheikh Gumi would have invited since because of his comment over insecurity, especially banditry and terrorism. He knows too well, and I don't know why the federal government have not called him for questioning. From all indication, he eats and dine and sleep with them. So if we have such a person in Nigeria, I don't know why the Nigerian state should have left him all this while. But I think I must commend greatly the boldness and the temerity of President Tinubu's government have invited him. There are several other Sheikh Gumi out there, hidden there. They should all be invited to tell Nigerians what is about this banditry. There are people feeding fat from this banditry, there are people eating well from this banditry, and there are people praying that it shouldn't finish. I think it is a step in the right direction for everyone invited him.
Yeah, well, I mean, commending the government for being bold, by doing what it normally should do. I'm not sure if, everybody will agree with that, except we're comparing it to the previous administration, which we, shouldn't. That was not the standard with which we should rate any government. So, but there is that. I want to, know what next, after he's been invited. You've mentioned that there's many other, Sheikh Gumis, across Nigeria. What next? And should those be the steps that we should expect from the government going forward? That we should immediately tackle every other person who is playing one role or the other, assisting these criminals?
This issue of this banditry have been commercialized in Nigeria, whether we like it or not, is now a source of living for some persons. Just like I said earlier, there are several other Sheikh Gumi. Government must deploy more intelligence to invite all of them. Invite them, question them. When they are found culpable, they prosecute them. This country belongs to all of us. Some people cannot hold our country to ransom. Nigerians have been bastardized. Nigerians have been traumatized by the action of these bandits. So there's no reason why federal government should not go all out for them. I would like it to my brother. We cannot shy away from the fact that we must compare this government with previous government. The previous government was lackadaisical about insecurity. The previous government was nonchalant about it. The previous government romanced these bandits. Whether we like it or not, we can't shy away from that fact. So I think we should give honor to whom honor is due. We should give honor to President Osarogie for taking this bold step. One thing I expect him to do more is to go further to get those remaining Sheikh Gumis. There are more powerful persons than Sheikh Gumi that are close to this bandit in this very country. They should call them for questioning. I'm not saying they are guilty yet, but they should deploy all the dragnet, bring them to book, and ensure that they are prosecuted appropriately.
I want us to, get a clearer picture of what exactly you're saying. When you say that there are several other Sheikh Gumis, are you referring to the quote-unquote terrorism financiers, the list that came out, or is there a bigger picture that you're trying to paint here for us? So we'd like you to please clarify what you mean by several other Sheikh Gumis.
One, I'm referring to the terrorist financier. Second, I'm referring to there are people who supply these terrorists all their supplies. There are persons who negotiate for them. There are persons, look, these terrorists you see in the forest, they are not the main guys. The main guys are living with you, me and you in Abuja. They are living with us in Lagos. They are very powerful. The main guys are very powerful, living in the urban areas. The main guys are very powerful, living in Maitama, living in Asokoro. So they should go all out for them and ensure that they are got it. These terrorists are just some bunch of riffraffs who they are using as foot soldiers to destabilize Nigeria. They are not the main guys. They can't even buy some of the equipment they use in prosecuting this war. So the federal government must be deliberate about who is sponsoring them, who gives them the money. There are banks that this money passes through. Most times, this money passes through banks. There are hands that this money passes through. There are offices this money passes through. Who are these guys? Federal government must go on because until you suffocate these terrorist financiers, until you suffocate these guys who are sponsoring these terrorists, you won't get to the end of this war. The ones you see in the forest that kidnap people are just mere riffraffs. They are just mere bandits who are used as foot soldiers. So I think federal government must go all out to get them.
And will you be, eager to criticize or condemn the government, if they don't do like you've said? And the reason that I initially said that, we shouldn't compare with the previous administration is because, again, that is not the standard with which, we should be rating governance in Nigeria. We should have a certain standard of governance that Nigerians should demand from anybody who takes office. President, governors, National Assembly members, everybody. And going back to, what everyone has termed disaster is not going to be the standard. We should, have our own standard. And so, moving forward, will you be quick to also criticize the current administration if we go the next 2, 3, 4 years and we do not see that some of these persons that you've, mentioned, alleged to also be assisting terrorists and assisting these bandits and kidnappers, if they aren't invited for questioning and arrested and charged? Would you criticize the government?
I would not even wait for 3, 4 years. I will not even wait for 3, 4 years. Within 1 year, if you don't carry out this action, I'll begin to criticize them because they have the needed intelligence now. We can't shy away from the fact that we must talk about the previous government. That's the standard, unfortunately, that's the standard we've seen ourselves in Nigeria. We must give kudos to this government of President Tinubu. But his honeymoon for me is now till the next 1 year if he doesn't get these guys. But so far, I'm happy that he has taken this step. Terrorists have been named, some of them have been named, and I'm sure they are working towards naming some of them. We will not just wait for them to be named. We want them to be named, arrested, and prosecuted. They must face the full wrath of law in this country. So I'm not even giving them 3 years. Within 1 year, if they don't take decisive action, I'm going to start criticizing them for not doing so because they have the needed intelligence. The service chiefs of this current administration are very hardworking people. They are very determined. I'm sure they are providing the needed intelligence for Osarogie to work. So I need him to be bold as he is today. They have the political will, he has the audacity, he has the temerity to name these people, whoever they are, no matter how highly placed, even if no matter how highly placed they are, no matter who they are, they should be named. Nigeria is suffocating. Nigeria is suffering. Look at the trauma that these little children went through for no offense of theirs. In a country that belongs to all of us, in the country that our forefathers built to be like this. So it's unacceptable. Federal government must go all out to get the terrorism financier. If you see this bandit clearly, you will know that there are bigger picture behind the scene. There are bigger guys behind the scene. There are bigger people sending this money. Where do these people who can't even eat very well get money to buy this arms ammunition they are using? There are people behind it. And the president must be bold. So inviting Sheikh Gumi for me is one sharing news for me. They should invite him, not just inviting him, they must properly interrogate him. They must properly ensure that he tells them what he knows about banditry.
All right, I'll come back to Sheikh Gumi, but you've talked about how this current administration must be bold in not just naming these other people who are the other Sheikh Gumis, like you referred to them, but to invite them, question them, and have them, be properly interrogated. By saying this, are you inferring that the current administration knows who these financiers are, who these other Sheikh Gumis are?
I am telling you this for free as a security expert. Every government and commander-in-chief have a credible intelligence at his disposal. No government is bereft of intelligence. So I'm not saying they know everybody, but they have credible intelligence that will lead to the arrest of these people. I am telling you for free that every intelligence agency in this country report to Mr. President every morning. So Mr. President knows some people he needs to invite. He knows, I'm sure, just like I said, he has taken steps. He has named the terrorist financier. That's one thing the previous government have not been able to do. He has also invited Sheikh Gumi, and I'm sure there are other persons he have invited that we're not aware of. And I trust Mr. President his judgment on being confident. I trust that he's going to invite them and bring them to book. So back to my point, the president has every information at his disposal. He has every information, and he must not shy from that. He must deploy all the political will, all the security might to ensure that these guys are brought to book.
So if you're, from what you're saying, if all the governments, all the governments in power have adequate information, maybe not of everyone involved, but majority of the players in the terrorism space, because right now it's a thriving business for a number of people. If they have this information, why have they not gone after them?
You see, we must go back to the previous government again. The previous government romanced these bandits. The previous government was careless about it. We can't shy away from that fact. What Osarogie met was a snowball of what the previous government left. We can't shy away from that fact. We saw where people are supporting bandits. We saw when people were romancing bandits. We saw when even Plateau, where people are killed on the Plateau, they will be arrested to Abuja and released on bail. They come back to the community and still terrorize people. So we can't shy away from that fact that the previous government had a lot of intelligence that they didn't work with. Maybe because of political differences, maybe because of religious polarization, maybe because of ethno-religious sentiment. So we cannot shy away from this fact that the previous government failed in terms of administration. We must say that very clearly. But I think Osarogie will not disappoint Nigerians. He has the political will, he has the temerity, he has the confidence to ensure that these guys are brought to book. He has started so well. Unfortunately, he met a lot of issues on ground. There was no money to prosecute this war. There was no political will when he came in, and he met a lot of mess on ground in terms of insecurity. So that's what the president is currently trying to manage. All we need from Nigeria is patience and time, so that he take this war to these guys. I'm sure he's doing it now. What we used to have before is an era where General Buratai tried so much. He tried so much in trying to win this war. I think he downgraded. He did well in trying to downgrade these bandits. The current CDS, when he was in Maiduguri, they did so much again, and they brought the suffocating bandits. So thank God the current CDS, the current commander of is now the CDS, General Christopher Babi Musa. So I'm sure the approach he adopted in suffocating these bandits in the northeast, that's the same thing they're going to adopt.
Okay, well, it sounds familiar also, when the administration came in 2015, they also had similar talking points, about how the previous administration was so bad, and they didn't have money and they had finished everything and so they couldn't work. It's pretty, sounds very familiar because I've heard that before. But I want to move away from Sheikh Gumi. Let's now talk about the incident in Kaduna and these kids that have been, released. What are your thoughts on the theatrics around their kidnapping, their release, the pictures, that are being taken, all of that, that has happened in the last, 72 hours?
For me, it's a step in the right direction. These girls these children have been returned back to their parents. They have been returned to Kaduna State government, and I'm sure it's a government made effort in trying to rescue them. Let me start by commending the President, Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, the National Security Advisor, the Chief of Defense Staff, Chief of Army Staff for all the role, and the Governor of Kaduna State for all the role they play in trying to return these children back to their parents. This is one action that's very commendable. However, I've heard Nigerians with mixed feelings on the modalities of how they are released and all of that. I do not have that fact, but because as a security expert, I have some internal information I may not like to disclose. I can assure you for free that no dime was paid. No bandit received 1 naira in the rescue of these children. Quote me anywhere on national television. Forget what you see on social media. Forget this propaganda. 1 dime was not paid. They were given hot chase. They were suffocated, and these children were released. And that is how every other people in hostage today are going to be released. I have these facts. There are some information we can't really let go on national television because of the sensitivity of it. But forget about the social media that comments. Forget about some of these comments. Some of these comments are born out of political reasons. Some are born out of hatred for the government and all of that. But we must call a spade a spade. The government have.
When you say suffocated, what do you mean by suffocated?
The security agencies went after them. They didn't give them freedom of action. All the route they needed to have gone out were blocked. All the route they needed to have carried out this action more was blocked.
How did they? I mean, it's very, very possible, and of course, we don't have any counter information, to disagree with this. But when you say you give, them kudos, what other country do you see that 200 people can be kidnapped and will be held in captivity for 2 weeks? And then, we give kudos, that they get those people back. I don't understand it. And when you say they suffocated them, is there any reports that any of these people were arrested? that their financiers have been picked up, that any of them, maybe was killed in the rescue operations. I mean, is there anything, that you can also share with us, aside the fact that there was no ransom paid?
That is why I say these are sensitive security information. I can't give all of them. There are people that were arrested in these operations.
No, I mean, it's not.
Bandit.
Go ahead. Please go ahead.
And if I go ahead, you can't begin to mention names now because that will lead to the escape of some people. Government is a continual. It's actually a slow process in terms of security. Dealing with security, you have to be very careful. If we give all details as what led to this kidnapping today, you may not get the big guys. You may not get the guys who are behind this kidnapping. So I think government is trying to be careful with that. Why they go after the people who are sponsors of these bandits. I am telling you this for free. I'm telling you this as someone who has deep information concerning what happened. And when you talk about the country where over 200 people can be kidnapped and after 3 days they are released, yes, of course, it's recommended. This is happening in Nigeria. It's happening in Nigeria. If you see Russia recently, over 100 and some people were killed in a country that is very, very protected like Russia, in a country that is well grounded in security like Russia. Over 100 and some people were killed in cold blood, and heaven did not fall. So terrorism can happen anywhere. Terrorism is terrorism, and it can happen anywhere. Nigeria needs time. President needs time to tackle this issue.
Well, the conversation about time is quite subjective, and unfortunately, we don't have time for that. We've run out of time. But in 5 seconds, do you think anything would come out of this invitation? This Sheikh Gumi invitation. Do you think any possible arrest will come out of this?
Sure, I'm very confident that.
You think you will be prosecuted as well?
Yes, I'm very sure.
Okay, we're just going to follow up in the next few weeks, and then we'll have you come back to review the case as it progresses. But Melvin, Ejeh, thank you so much for joining us this morning on Breakfast Central.
Thank you for having me.
All right.